The champagne glass shattered against marble, not by accident. Ryan Carter stood perfectly still as laughter erupted around him, his daughter's daycare pickup time ticking closer with every second he spent trapped at this corporate circus. They'd seated him next to the new hire on purpose, cameras ready, expecting him to crumble. What they didn't know, the quiet single dad they'd been tormenting for 3 years wasn't who they thought he was. And tonight, everything was about to break wide open. If you want to see how far a father will go to protect what matters, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Ryan checked his phone under the table. 6:47 p.m. Emma's daycare closed at 8, and he was 40 minutes outside the city at the Meridian Grand, dressed in a rented suit that pinched at the shoulders, surrounded by people who'd made his life hell since the day he'd accepted this job. The annual holiday gala. Mandatory attendance. His manager had made that clear. "You'll sit at table 12, Sharon from HR had told him that morning, her smile too bright, too practiced. "We've got a fun seating arrangement this year." Fun? Right. The ballroom glittered with excess. Ice sculptures shaped like the company logo, servers circulating with trays of food Ryan couldn't pronounce, a live band playing something jazzy and forgettable. 200 employees celebrating a year of record profits, most of them already drunk on the open bar. Ryan nursed a ginger ale and avoided eye contact. Table 12 sat near the back, half hidden by a column. When he'd arrived, he'd found his nameplate next to one that read Lily Bennett. He didn't know her well. She joined the marketing department maybe 6 weeks ago, fresh out of grad school, the kind of bright-eyed optimism that this place would crush within a year. She hadn't arrived yet. The other seats filled quickly. Marcus from accounting, who'd once accidentally forwarded Ryan's personal email to the entire floor. Jessica from sales, who'd started the rumor that Ryan was illiterate because he preferred phone calls to written reports. Tom from operations, who'd nicknamed him Daddy Daycare and made it stick. They were all here, all grinning. "Carter, fancy seeing you here." Marcus dropped into the seat across from him, tie already loosened, bourbon on his breath. "Didn't think you'd show. Thought you'd have to rush home to tuck in your kid." Jessica laughed from 2 seats over. "He probably has a curfew." Ryan took a sip of ginger ale. "Emma's at her friend's place tonight. I've got time." It was a lie. Emma was at daycare. Mrs. Chen had agreed to stay late for an extra $50 Ryan didn't really have, but only until 8. Not a minute more. "Well, well," Tom leaned back in his chair, surveying Ryan like a bug under glass. "Carter's out past bedtime. What's the occasion? Finally going to talk to a woman who isn't your babysitter?" More laughter. Ryan said nothing. The truth was simpler than they'd ever guess. He'd learned a long time ago that reacting only made it worse. Give them nothing, and eventually they'd get bored. That's what he'd been telling himself for 3 years. It hadn't worked yet. The bartender passed by their table, and Marcus flagged him down. "Another bourbon. Make it a double." He turned back to Ryan. "You want anything stronger than that ginger ale, Carter? Or are you staying sober in case you need to change a diaper later?" Jessica nearly spit out her wine. "Oh my God, Marcus. What, I'm just asking." Marcus's grin widened. Single dad life must be rough. No wonder he looks exhausted all the time. Tom joined in. "I heard he fell asleep in the quarterly meeting last month, just straight up dozed off while Jenkins was presenting." "I didn't fall asleep," Ryan said quietly. "I had my eyes closed for a minute." Sure. Tom winked at Jessica. "He was meditating." "Emma had a fever the night before," Ryan continued, though he knew it didn't matter. "I was up with her until 4 a.m. "And you still came to work?" Marcus shook his head in mock admiration. "That's dedication. Stupid, but dedicated." "Should have called in sick," Jessica said. "Oh, wait, you can't. You've already used up all your sick days on your kid, haven't you?" Ryan's jaw tightened. 6 sick days this year. 4 for Emma's asthma, 1 for a stomach bug, 1 for a daycare closure during a snowstorm. Every single one documented, approved, completely within company policy. And every single one held against him. "Oh, this is going to be good," Jessica said, eyes lighting up as someone approached the table. "She's here." Ryan glanced up. Lily Bennett wore a green dress that probably cost more than his rent. Her dark hair swept up, confidence in every step. She looked like she belonged here, unlike Ryan, who felt like he'd wandered into the wrong wedding reception. She spotted her nameplate and paused, just for a second. Her gaze flicked to Ryan, then to the others, and something shifted in her expression. Not quite suspicion, more like recognition. She'd figured it out. "Hi," she said brightly, taking her seat beside Ryan. "Lily, we met briefly in the break room last month." "Ryan," he nodded. "Yeah, I remember." She set her clutch on the table and smoothed her dress. Up close, Ryan could see the tiny tension lines around her eyes. She was nervous, but hiding it well. Across from them, Marcus was practically vibrating with anticipation. "So, Lily," Marcus started, voice dripping with false friendliness. "How are you liking the company so far?" "It's great," she said. "Everyone's been really welcoming." Jessica snorted. "That's one word for it." The first course arrived. Some kind of salad with ingredients Ryan didn't recognize. Arugula, maybe. Goat cheese. Something that looked like candied nuts. He picked up his fork. Beside him, Lily did the same, but he noticed her hand shook slightly. "Must be nice," Tom said, gesturing vaguely at Ryan with his wine glass. "Getting paired up with Carter here. He's a real catch." "Excuse me?" Lily's tone was polite, but there was an edge underneath. "Oh, you know," Tom grinned. "Dependable, responsible, a real family man. Probably in bed by 9 most nights." Marcus jumped in. "We were just saying how unusual it is to see him out. Usually he's rushing home to his daughter." "What's her name again, Carter? Emma?" Ryan cut a tomato in half. "Yeah, Emma." "How old is she now?" Jessica asked, though Ryan knew she already knew. She'd asked before, multiple times. 4? 5? 4. "Ah," Jessica's voice went syrupy. "That's such a sweet age. I bet she's got you wrapped around her little finger." She wasn't wrong. Emma had him completely figured out, had since she was 2. But Jessica Claude's response was interrupted retry. Didn't get to talk about his daughter. None of them did. "She does," Ryan said evenly. Lily was quiet beside him, eating her salad with deliberate precision. Her jaw was tight. "So what's the deal, Carter?" Tom leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You ever gonna date again, or is it just you and the kid from here on out?" Ryan set down his fork, picked up his ginger ale, put it down again without drinking. "That's kind of personal," Lily said. All eyes turned to her. Marcus laughed. "We're just making conversation." "Are you?" Lily met his gaze. "Because it sounds like you're being nosy." The table went quiet for a beat. Then Tom recovered, flashing his salesman smile. "Hey, we're all friends here. No harm meant." "Right," Lily said. "Friends." Ryan glanced at her. She was still looking at Marcus, expression unreadable. He'd seen that look before, on his lawyer during the custody hearings, on the judge who'd ruled in his favor, on people who were deciding whether to believe him or not. Most of them hadn't. The salad plates were cleared. The main course came, chicken or fish. Ryan had circled chicken on the RSVP card weeks ago, but couldn't remember now. It didn't matter. His stomach was in knots. "So, Lily," Jessica said sweetly, "what do you think of Ryan so far? He's pretty quiet, right? Keeps to himself?" Lily cut into her chicken. "He seems nice." "Oh, he's nice," Marcus said. "Super nice. Boring as hell, but nice." "I don't think he's boring." Lily's voice was calm. Too calm. "I think he's smart enough to know when to keep his mouth shut." Tom choked on his wine. Marcus's smile faltered. Ryan looked at Lily. Really looked at her. She wasn't backing down. She wasn't laughing along. She was defending him, and she barely knew him. Why? "Wow," Jessica said. "Looks like Carter's got a fan." "I just don't see the point in being rude," Lily said. She turned to Ryan. "Do you?" He should have said no. Should have agreed with her, let her fight this battle she'd apparently decided to take on. But the words caught in his throat because he knew what happened next. She'd keep pushing, they'd turn on her too, and by Monday morning she'd be on the receiving end of the same treatment he'd endured for years. He couldn't let that happen. "It's fine," Ryan said quietly. "They're just joking around." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Are they?" "Yeah." He forced something that might have passed for a smile. "It's all good." She didn't look convinced, but she let it drop, turned back to her plate. The conversation shifted. Tom started talking about his Bahamas vacation. Jessica complained about her upstairs neighbor. Marcus told a story about a client that probably wasn't true. Ryan checked his phone again. 7:15. The main course dragged on forever. Speeches started. The CEO, the CFO, the head of sales. Awards were handed out. Someone won a trip to Hawaii. Someone else got a plaque for outstanding dedication. Ryan clapped when everyone else clapped, smiled when everyone else smiled, and counted down the minutes until he could leave. Beside him, Lily was tense. She hadn't said much since the chicken arrived, but he could feel her anger simmering. Finally, dessert. Chocolate cake, rich and probably expensive. Ryan took one bite and pushed it aside. Not a fan of chocolate? Lily asked. Not really. Me neither. She pushed hers aside too. Too sweet. Across the table, Marcus was on his fourth glass of wine, face flushed, tie completely undone. Jessica had her phone out, typing furiously. Tom was arguing with someone from the next table over about football. You should go, Lily said quietly. Ryan blinked. What? Your daughter. You should go pick her up. She met his eyes. You keep checking your phone. You're stressed. Just leave. I can't. Why not? Because Sharon said attendance was mandatory. Lily made a sound that might have been a laugh. Sharon's drunk off her ass by the bathroom. She's not going to notice. She was right. Sharon was nowhere to be seen. Half the room was drunk. The other half was pretending to care about the VP of Marketing's speech about quarterly projections. I still can't, Ryan said. Why? Because leaving early would give them more ammunition. Because they'd call him unreliable. Because he'd worked too hard to keep this job, terrible as it was. Because it had health insurance and covered Emma's asthma medication and let him work remotely twice a week when she was sick. Because he couldn't afford to lose it. I just can't, he said. Lily studied him for a long moment. Then she stood, grabbing her clutch. Excuse me, I need some air. She walked away, heels clicking on marble. Ryan watched her go, then checked his phone. 7:38. He had 22 minutes. Ooh, trouble in paradise already? Jessica grinned. What did you say to her, Carter? Nothing. Must have been something. She looked pissed. Ryan stood. I'm going to check on her. Oh, look at that. Tom raised his glass. Carter's playing hero. Good luck, buddy. You're going to need it. Ryan ignored him, wove through tables, past clusters of drunk coworkers, out into the hallway. The noise faded behind him. He found Lily on the terrace, leaning against the railing, staring out at the city lights. You okay? He asked. She didn't turn around. Do they always treat you like that? Like what? Like you're some kind of joke. Ryan joined her at the railing. The December air was cold, biting through his thin suit jacket. Pretty much. And you just take it? What else am I supposed to do? Push back. She turned to face him. Stand up for yourself. Doesn't work that way. Why not? Because I'm a single dad in a company full of people who think that makes me weak. If I push back, I'm aggressive. If I complain, I'm whining. If I leave early for my kid, I'm not committed. I can't win. He rubbed his hands together, trying to warm them. So I just survive. Lily was quiet for a moment. That's bullshit. Yeah, it is. You should report them. To who? HR? Sharon's the one who seated me next to you. This whole night was a setup. A setup for what? Ryan laughed, bitter. For me to embarrass myself. They probably had bets going on whether I'd cry or leave early or say something stupid. Putting me next to the new attractive hire was just icing on the cake. Get me flustered, watch me crash and burn, have a good laugh. Lily's expression hardened. That's disgusting. That's corporate culture. Not everywhere. No, Ryan admitted. Not everywhere, just here. She crossed her arms against the cold. Why do you stay? Health insurance, steady paycheck, remote work flexibility. He checked his phone. 7:44. And because finding another job that offers all that while being a single parent is basically impossible. What about Emma's mom? Not in the picture. At all? At all. Ryan pocketed his phone. She left when Emma was 6 months old, signed away her rights. Haven't heard from her since. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. Lily looked like she wanted to say more, but the terrace door opened. Marcus stumbled out, grinning. There you are. We were wondering where you two ran off to. Jessica appeared behind him. Ooh, are we interrupting something? No, Ryan said. We were just talking. Talking. Right, Marcus winked. That's what they're calling it now? Lily stepped forward. Actually, we were discussing how childish you all are. Marcus blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. Childish, immature, pathetic, really, the way you've been treating Ryan all night. Jessica's smile vanished. We're just having fun. At his expense, Lily shot back. That's not fun. That's bullying. Bullying? Tom had appeared now too, drink in hand. Come on, Carter can take a joke. Can he? Lily looked at Ryan. Or does he just have no choice? Ryan's chest tightened. She was doing it, exactly what he'd been afraid of. She was making herself a target. Lily, he said quietly, it's fine. It's not fine. Yes, it is. Let's just go back inside. Why? So they can keep mocking you? So they can keep treating you like you're less than human because you have a daughter to take care of? Whoa, whoa. Marcus held up his hands. Nobody said he was less than human. You didn't have to say it. Lily's voice was sharp. You've been implying it all night. The jokes about his parenting, the comments about his social life, the fake concern about his daughter. You're all acting like he's some kind of charity case, and it's disgusting. Jessica stepped closer. You don't know what you're talking about. You've been here, 6 weeks? Long enough to see how you treat people. We treat people fine. Ryan's just sensitive. He's not sensitive. He's being harassed. That's a strong word, Tom said. Is it? Lily turned to Ryan. Tell them. Tell them what you told me. Ryan's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. Everything okay? Still picking up at 8? 7:52. I have to go, he said. See? Jessica gestured at him like he'd just proven her point. He's always running off. Because he has a kid, Lily snapped. That's what parents do. They take care of their children. Why is that so hard for you to understand? We understand, Marcus said. We just think it's funny that he can't handle both. Handle both what? Work and life. The rest of us manage just fine. The rest of you don't have kids. Some of us do, Jessica said. And we don't let it interfere with our careers. Because you have partners, Lily said, or nannies, or family support, Ryan's doing it alone. That's his choice. Is it? Lily's voice dropped. You don't know his situation. Neither do you, Jessica countered. I know enough. Lily looked at each of them. I know that you're all awful people who get off on making someone's life harder because it makes you feel better about your own miserable existence. The terrace went dead silent. Marcus's smile was gone. Jessica looked genuinely shocked. Tom's face had turned red. Wow, Marcus said finally. Tell us how you really feel. I just did. You're going to regret this, Jessica said quietly. You know that, right? Monday morning, everyone's going to know you went off on half the senior staff. I'm okay with that. You shouldn't be. Tom stepped closer. You're new. You don't have any protection. Carter here, he's got tenure at least. You? You're expendable. Lily didn't flinch. Then I guess I'll find out how good my resume is. Ryan's phone buzzed again. Ryan, I need to close up soon. He couldn't stay. He couldn't leave Lily to face this alone, but he couldn't miss picking up Emma. Mrs. Chen wouldn't wait. She had her own family, her own life. Lily, he said, I really have to go. She turned to him, some of the fire draining from her eyes. Okay? I'm fine. Go get your daughter. He hesitated. Go, she said firmly. Ryan nodded, walked past Marcus and Jessica and Tom, back through the terrace door, through the ballroom where people were dancing now, past the ice sculptures melting under warm lights. He grabbed his coat from the check, texted Mrs. Chen that he was on his way, and pushed through the front doors into the cold night. His car was parked 3 blocks away. He ran. The drive back to the city was a blur of streetlights and guilt. He'd left Lily there, left her to deal with the fallout of defending him. By Monday, she'd be marked. They'd come after her the same way they'd come after him, subtle at first, then relentless. He pulled into the daycare parking lot at 8:07. Mrs. Chen was waiting by the door, Emma already bundled in her coat, backpack on. Sorry, Ryan panted. Traffic. It's okay. Mrs. Chen smiled. She was kind, always had been. Emma was very good today. Was I, Daddy? Emma's gap-toothed grin was the best thing he'd seen all night. I'm sure you were, sweetheart. He scooped her up. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. See you Monday. Ryan strapped Emma into her car seat, climbed into the driver's seat, and sat there for a moment. His hands were shaking. Daddy, are you okay? He looked at his daughter in the rear-view mirror, 4 years old. The reason he got up every morning, the reason he endured every insult, every joke, every humiliating moment at that company. Yeah, baby, I'm okay. Did you have fun at your party? Fun, right. It was fine, he said. How about we get ice cream? It's nighttime. I know, but you were good today, and I think we both deserve a treat. Emma's squeal of delight made the entire terrible evening almost worth it. Almost. They got ice cream at the 24-hour place near their apartment. Vanilla for Emma, nothing for Ryan because his stomach was still in knots. Emma chattered about her day, about the craft project she'd made, about her best friend Sophie, who'd brought cookies to share. Ryan listened and smiled and tried not to think about Lily standing alone on that terrace, facing down people who'd make her life hell. He should have stayed, should have backed her up, should have done something other than run. But Emma came first, always. They got home at 9. Ryan helped Emma brush her teeth, read her 3 stories, 2 about princesses, 1 about a dinosaur who was afraid of the dark, tucked her into bed with her favorite stuffed rabbit. Daddy? Yeah, sweetheart? Why do you look sad? I'm not sad. You have your sad face. Ryan sat on the edge of her bed. I'm just tired. Because of the party? Yeah, because of the party. Emma reached up and patted his cheek with her small hand. It's okay, Daddy. Tomorrow you can rest. If only. Good night, Em. Good night, Daddy. Love you. Love you too. He turned off her light, pulled the door halfway closed, and walked to the kitchen. His phone sat on the counter. 3 missed calls. All from numbers he didn't recognize, and 1 text from an unknown number. This is Lily. Got your number from the company directory. Are you okay? Ryan stared at the message. She was checking on him. After everything that had happened, after she'd blown up her own standing at the company defending him, she was asking if he was okay. He typed, I'm fine. How are you? The response came immediately. I've been better. They cornered me after you left. Ryan's stomach dropped. What happened? Nothing I couldn't handle, but I think I'm officially on their list now. I'm sorry. Don't be. I meant what I said. Ryan didn't know what to say to that. He settled on, thank you. You're welcome. Get some rest. Monday's going to be interesting. That was one way to put it. Ryan set down his phone and sank into a chair at the small kitchen table. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. He should sleep, should try to forget about tonight, and prepare for whatever fallout waited on Monday. But he couldn't stop thinking about Lily, about the way she'd stood up to them without hesitation, about the steel in her voice when she'd called them out. Nobody had ever done that for him before. Most people looked at Ryan and saw exactly what he wanted them to see. A quiet guy, a single dad, someone who wasn't a threat, someone who could be ignored or mocked without consequence. Lily had looked at him and seen something different. He wasn't sure what yet, but whatever it was, it had been enough to make her risk her own position to defend his. Ryan pulled out his laptop and opened his email. The CEO's address was easy to find. It was on every company-wide memo. He started typing. Mr. Harrison, my name is Ryan Carter. We haven't formally met, though I've been with the company for 3 years. I'm writing to report a pattern of workplace harassment. He stopped, read what he'd written, deleted it. It wouldn't matter. Harrison was 70, semi-retired, barely involved in day-to-day operations. His son, the VP of operations, was the real power, and Ryan had watched him laugh along with the same jokes at last year's gala. Nobody was going to help him, but maybe he could help Lily. Ryan opened a new message, addressed it to Sharon in HR, wrote 3 paragraphs detailing what had happened at the gala, keeping his tone professional, sticking to facts. He read it over twice, added a line about how Lily had been retaliated against for objecting to harassment. Then he saved it as a draft and closed his laptop without sending it. He wasn't ready. Not yet. Ryan dragged himself to bed and lay there staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lily's face when she told him to go. The determination, the anger on his behalf. Nobody had been angry for him in a long time. When he finally slept, he dreamed about the gala. But in the dream, he didn't leave. In the dream, he stayed on that terrace and told Marcus and Jessica and Tom exactly what he thought of them. In the dream, he stood next to Lily and didn't back down. In the dream, he wasn't afraid. He woke at 6 to Emma jumping on his bed. "Daddy, Daddy, it's Saturday. Can we go to the park?" Ryan groaned. Every muscle ached like he'd run a marathon. "Sure, sweetheart." After breakfast, they made pancakes, Emma's favorite. Ryan let her crack the eggs, even though half the shell ended up in the bowl, and he had to fish it out with a spoon. They ate on the couch watching cartoons, and for a little while Ryan forgot about the gala and Lily and the email draft waiting on his laptop. His phone buzzed during the second episode of whatever show Emma was watching. Another message from Lily. "I know this is weird, but can we meet? Coffee or something? I want to talk." Ryan typed, "When? Today? This morning?" He glanced at Emma, who was absorbed in her show, syrup on her chin. "I have my daughter. That's fine. Bring her." Ryan hesitated. He didn't make a habit of mixing his work life with Emma. She was his safe space, the one part of his world they couldn't touch. But Lily had already seen the worst of it. And maybe, she actually understood. "Okay," he typed. "Where?" She sent him an address. A coffee shop in his neighborhood, just 4 blocks from his apartment. 10 a.m. They showed up at 10:15. Emma had insisted on bringing 3 stuffed animals and changing her outfit twice, settling finally on her favorite purple dress with the twirly skirt. Lily was already there, sitting at a corner table with a latte, looking tired but determined. "Hi," Ryan said. "Hi." She smiled at Emma. "And who's this?" "I'm Emma. I'm 4." Emma held up 4 fingers to demonstrate. 4, wow, that's very grown up. Emma beamed. Ryan got her a hot chocolate and a cookie, set her up at the table with her stuffed animals, and sat down across from Lily. "Thanks for meeting me," Lily said. "Of course." "I've been thinking about last night." She wrapped her hands around her latte. "And I need to know something. Are you planning to report what happened?" Ryan glanced at Emma. She was talking to her stuffed rabbit, completely oblivious. "I don't know." "Why not?" "Because it won't change anything. They'll investigate, maybe give Marcus and the others a slap on the wrist, and then it'll get worse. They'll make my life hell until I quit. So you're just going to let it go?" "I don't have a choice." Lily leaned forward. "Yes, you do. You don't understand." "I understand that you're scared, and I get it. You've got Emma to think about. But Ryan, this isn't just about you anymore. It's about every person they're going to do this to next. Every new hire they're going to target. Every single parent they're going to mock." Ryan took a breath. "What do you want me to do? Fight back?" "How?" "Report them, officially, on the record, and I'll do the same." "They'll come after you." "They already are." Lily pulled out her phone, scrolled through something, then turned it so Ryan could see. "I got 5 emails this morning. 3 from HR asking me to clarify what happened last night. 1 from Jessica calling me unprofessional, and 1 from someone I don't even know telling me I should watch my back." Ryan's chest tightened. "Lily." "I don't care." Her eyes were fierce. "I'm not going to work somewhere that treats people like this. And neither should you. I can't just quit. I'm not saying quit. I'm saying report them. Make noise. Force the company to actually deal with it. And if they don't, then we both quit. But at least we'll know we tried." Emma looked up from her stuffed animals. "Daddy, can I have more cookie?" "Sure, baby." Ryan got up, bought another cookie from the counter, came back. Lily was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "She's lucky to have you," Lily said. "I'm lucky to have her. I mean it. The way you take care of her, most guys wouldn't. Most guys have help." Still, Lily took a sip of her latte. "You're a good dad." Ryan didn't know what to say to that. People didn't usually compliment his parenting. They usually just pointed out everything he was doing wrong. Emma's hair wasn't brushed enough. Her shoes didn't match. She ate too many chicken nuggets. "So," Lily said, "will you do it? Will you report them?" Ryan looked at his daughter, 4 years old, innocent, happy. She deserved a father who didn't come home angry every night, who didn't hide in the bathroom to cry after she went to bed, who didn't teach her that survival meant keeping your head down and taking whatever people threw at you. She deserved better. Yeah, Ryan said. I'll do it. Lily's smile was sunlight breaking through clouds. Good. We'll send the emails Monday morning, together. Together, Ryan echoed. They finished their coffee. Emma showed Lily all three of her stuffed animals, Mr. Rabbit, Princess Bear, and a dinosaur she'd named Steve, and explained their complicated backstory involving a castle, a volcano, and a magic cookie. Lily listened like it was the most important thing in the world, asking questions, laughing at the right moments. When they left, Ryan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. It was fragile, tentative, easily crushed. But it was there. The rest of the weekend passed in a blur. Ryan rewrote the email 5 times. Each version felt either too aggressive or too weak, too emotional or too clinical. He couldn't find the right tone. Saturday night, after Emma was in bed, he sat at his laptop and tried again. Dear Sharon, I am writing to formally report incidents of workplace harassment that occurred at the annual holiday gala on December 15th. He detailed everything, the comments about his parenting, the jokes about his social life, the way they'd set him up by seating him next to Lily, the confrontation on the terrace. He kept it professional, stuck to facts, avoided accusations. Then he saved it as a draft and closed the laptop. Sunday was better. Ryan took Emma to the park, pushed her on the swings until his arms ached, helped her build a snowman even though there wasn't quite enough snow and it ended up looking more like a lumpy snow blob. It's perfect, Daddy, Emma declared. It wasn't perfect. Nothing was perfect. But it was theirs. That night, after Emma was asleep, Ryan opened the email draft one more time, read it through, made a few small changes. His finger hovered over the send button. He thought about Marcus's smug grin, Jessica's fake sweetness, Tom's casual cruelty. He thought about 3 years of taking it. 3 years of keeping quiet. 3 years of telling himself it would get better if he just waited it out. It hadn't gotten better. He thought about Lily, standing on that terrace, calling them out without hesitation. He thought about Emma, asking why he had his sad face. Ryan hit send. The email whooshed into the void. No turning back now. He texted Lily. Just sent mine. Her response came seconds later. Me too, no turning back. No, Ryan agreed, no turning back. He barely slept that night, kept checking his phone, expecting Sharon to call, to email, to demand he retract everything. But there was nothing, just silence. Monday morning arrived too fast. Ryan dropped Emma at daycare, kissed her goodbye, and drove to the office with his stomach in knots. He'd rewritten mental scripts of what he'd say if confronted, how he'd defend himself, what he'd do if they fired him on the spot. He arrived at his desk at 8:30. The office was already buzzing with an energy that felt wrong. People clustered near the coffee machine, whispering. Someone laughed too loud. Others were on their phones, typing furiously. Ryan logged into his computer. 53 new emails. Most of them were the usual Monday morning spam, meeting requests, project updates, company newsletters. But 3 were from Sharon, all marked high priority. His phone rang before he could open them. Sharon's extension. Ryan, my office, now! He stood on shaky legs, walked through the cubicles. Everyone was staring. Some weren't even pretending not to. Word had already spread. Sharon's office was small and cramped, barely bigger than a closet. She sat behind her desk, face grim, reading something on her computer screen. Sit, Jen, she said without looking up. Ryan sat. Sharon finally looked at him. I got your email this morning, along with one from Lily Bennett. Care to explain what this is about? It's about harassment. It's all in the email. You're accusing 3 senior employees of workplace bullying. Yes. Based on one incident. Based on 3 years of incidents. Friday night was just the worst. Sharon leaned back in her chair. It creaked. Ryan, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a serious accusation. If you proceed with this, there will be an investigation. People will be questioned. Your name will be attached to this permanently. I know. Are you sure you want that? Ryan met her eyes. Yes. Sharon sighed, rubbing her temples like she had a headache. And Lily? Is she sure? Ask her yourself. I will. She pulled up something else on her computer, clicked a few times. This is going to get messy, Ryan. I know. People are going to take sides. I know. You might not like how this ends. Ryan stood. I already don't like how this has been going. At least this way something might change. He walked out before she could respond, heart pounding in his chest. Back at his desk, his hands were shaking. But he'd done it. He'd actually done it. After 3 years of silence, he'd finally spoken up. His phone buzzed. Lily. How'd it go? About as expected. You? Same. Sharon's pissed. Yeah, no going back now. No, Ryan agreed. No going back. The rest of Monday crawled by. Whispers followed him everywhere, to the bathroom, to the coffee machine, to the conference room for a meeting about Q4 projections that he couldn't focus on because everyone was staring. By lunch, the rumors had mutated into something uglier. Ryan overheard 2 women from accounting in the hallway. I heard they're having an affair, that's why she defended him. But he's got a kid. So? Doesn't mean he's not sleeping with the new girl. Ryan kept walking, face hot. By 2 p.m., it had gotten worse. Someone had started a group chat. Ryan knew because his one work friend, David, from IT, texted him a screenshot. Tom. Carter and the new girl are totally hooking up, Jessica. Called it. Desperate single dad and naive new hire. Classic Marcus. $20 says they're both gone by end of month. David's text. Dude, this is bad. Ryan didn't respond. What could he say? At 2:47, Marcus cornered him in the break room. You really did it, Marcus said, blocking the door. You actually reported us. Yes. Over a joke. Over 3 years of harassment. Marcus stepped closer, close enough that Ryan could smell coffee on his breath. You're making a mistake, Carter. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Not just yours. You dragged Lily into this too. She made her own choice. Did she? Marcus smiled, and there was nothing friendly in it. Or did you manipulate some naive new hire into fighting your battles? Ryan's jaw tightened. I didn't manipulate anyone. That's not how it's going to look. Pretty young woman, older single dad who can't get a date. People are going to talk. Let them. They already are. Marcus leaned against the counter, casual, like they were discussing the weather. Half the office thinks you're sleeping with her. The other half thinks you're using her to make yourself look like a victim. Either way, you both look bad. Ryan poured his coffee with steady hands, even though his insides were churning. I don't care what people think. You should. Because this investigation, it's not going to go the way you think. We'll see. Marcus shook his head, something almost like pity crossing his face. You've got no idea what you've started, do you? Maybe not. But Ryan was done being afraid. He walked past Marcus back to his desk and tried to focus on work. Failed miserably. His mind kept circling back to Lily, wondering how she was handling it, if she was okay, if she regretted standing up for him. At 4:15, he got his answer. An email from Lily. Can we talk? Not here after work? Ryan typed back. I have to pick up Emma at 5:30. Can we do tomorrow? What about coffee in the morning? Before work? Okay. Same place as Saturday? See you at 7. Ryan shut down his computer at exactly 5 p.m. and left. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Just grabbed his coat and walked out through the maze of cubicles while people whispered. Emma was in a good mood when he picked her up, chattering about a caterpillar she'd seen at recess. Ryan listened and smiled and tried to be present, but his mind was elsewhere. That night, after Emma was asleep, he checked his email again. 67 new messages. Most were work stuff. 3 were from people he barely knew, offering vague support. Hang in there, stay strong. Generic platitudes that meant nothing. One was from Jessica. You're going to regret this. Ryan deleted it without responding. He met Lily at the coffee shop Tuesday morning at 7 sharp. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, but her spine was straight. How bad was it yesterday? Ryan asked after they'd gotten their coffee and sat down. Pretty bad. Lily wrapped her hands around her cup. Sharon pulled me in 3 times, asked the same questions over and over, like she was trying to trip me up. What did you tell her? The truth. that they were harassing you, that I called them out, that I don't regret it. Did she believe you? I don't know. Maybe. Lily took a sip. She kept asking about our relationship, if we'd coordinated our stories, if there was something going on between us. Ryan's stomach sank. What did you say? That we barely know each other. That I defended you because it was the right thing to do, not because we're involved. She met his eyes. We're not, right? Involved? No. Good. Because that's what they're going to try to make this about. Not the harassment, not their behavior. They're going to make it about us supposedly having an affair or conspiring together. I know. Lily set down her cup. My manager pulled me aside yesterday afternoon, suggested maybe I'd misunderstood the situation, that Marcus and the others were just being friendly, that maybe I was too sensitive because I'm new. That's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. But that's the narrative they're building. She looked out the window at the morning traffic. They're going to try to discredit both of us. Ryan had expected that, but hearing it out loud made it real in a way that turned his coffee sour in his stomach. So what do we do? He asked. We stick to the truth. We don't change our stories. We don't back down. Lily turned back to him. And we don't give them any ammunition. Meaning? Meaning we keep our distance at work. No coffee breaks together. No friendly chats in the hallway. Nothing they can twist into evidence that we're coordinating or involved. It made sense, but it also felt wrong, like they were playing into the narrative that there was something to hide. Okay, Ryan said anyway. I mean it, Ryan. If we're going to win this, we have to be smart. I know. They finished their coffee in silence, the weight of what they'd started settling between them. When Lily stood to leave, Ryan almost asked her to stay. Almost said he was scared. Almost admitted that he had no idea what he was doing. But he didn't. Because Lily looked scared too, and if both of them fell apart, this whole thing would collapse. See you at work, she said. Yeah, see you. Ryan watched her leave, then sat alone in the coffee shop for another 10 minutes, trying to gather the courage to face another day. When he finally walked into the office at 8:15, Sharon was waiting at his desk. Conference room now. The investigation officially starts today. Ryan followed Sharon down the hallway, past cubicles where people pretended not to watch. The conference room was on the 3rd floor, glass-walled, impossible to hide in. Sharon held the door open and gestured him inside. 2 people were already seated at the long table, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a laptop, and a younger man in an expensive suit taking notes on a legal pad. Ryan Carter, this is Margaret Chen from our external compliance firm, and Daniel Reeves, our company's legal counsel. Ryan shook their hands. His palm was sweating. Have a seat, Mr. Carter, Margaret said. Her voice was neutral, giving nothing away. Ryan sat. Sharon took the chair beside the lawyers, creating a clear divide. Them on one side, Ryan alone on the other. Thank you for meeting with us, Margaret began, opening her laptop. As Sharon informed you, we're conducting a formal investigation into the allegations you raised in your email. Everything discussed here is confidential. Do you understand? Yes? Good. Let's start from the beginning. You've been with the company for 3 years, correct? 3 years and 2 months. And during that time, you claim to have experienced ongoing harassment from 3 colleagues, Marcus Webb, Jessica Ortiz, and Tom Henderson. Is that accurate? Yes. Can you describe the nature of this harassment? Ryan had rehearsed this, had written it all down, organized it chronologically, practiced keeping his voice steady. But sitting there with 3 people staring at him, waiting for him to prove he'd been heard enough to matter, the words stuck in his throat. They made comments, he started, about my daughter, about being a single parent, about my personal life. What kind of comments? Daniel the lawyer asked, pen poised. Jokes, mostly. About how I couldn't handle work and parenting, how I was always tired, how I'd never date again because what woman would want a guy with a kid? Ryan's hands were clenched in his lap. It started small, a comment here and there, but it built up over time. Can you give us specific examples? Margaret asked. Ryan walked them through it. The email Marcus had accidentally forwarded to the entire department, a message from Emma's daycare about her having an asthma attack, with Marcus's reply to a friend, Bet Carter's freaking out. Guy can barely handle a regular Tuesday. The time Jessica had loudly announced in a meeting that Ryan couldn't stay late for a client presentation because he had daddy duties. The nickname Daddy Daycare that Tom had coined and spread until even people from other departments used it. Margaret typed everything. Daniel took notes. Sharon sat perfectly still, expression unreadable. And these incidents occurred over the course of 3 years? Margaret asked. Yes. Why didn't you report them sooner? There it was, the question Ryan had been dreading. Because I didn't think anyone would care, he said honestly, and because I couldn't afford to lose this job. But you're reporting it now. What changed? The gala. It crossed a line. Walk us through what happened at the gala. Ryan did. Described the seating arrangement, the escalating comments, Lily's intervention, the confrontation on the terrace. He stuck to facts, kept his tone level, didn't embellish. When he finished, Margaret looked at Daniel, then back at Ryan. Ms. Bennett claims she witnessed this harassment and objected to it. Is that your understanding? Yes. Had you asked her to defend you? No, I barely knew her. Had you discussed the harassment with her prior to the gala? No. So her intervention was unprompted? Completely. Margaret made a note. Mr. Carter, I need to ask you directly. What is the nature of your relationship with Lily Bennett? Ryan had expected this too. We're colleagues. That's it. Some employees have suggested that you and Ms. Bennett coordinated your complaints, that you're working together to target Marcus, Jessica, and Tom. That's not true. They've also suggested that you may be romantically involved, and that these allegations are an attempt to cover up an inappropriate workplace relationship. Ryan's jaw tightened. Also not true. You met with Ms. Bennett outside of work this past Saturday, correct? At a coffee shop? How did they know that? Had someone been watching? Yes, Ryan said. She reached out to me after the gala. She wanted to talk about what happened. And you brought your daughter to this meeting. She asked me to, said it was fine. Why would Ms. Bennett want to meet your child if you're just colleagues? The implication was clear. Ryan forced himself to stay calm. Because she's a decent person who understands that I'm a single parent and can't just drop everything. It wasn't romantic. It was coffee. Margaret studied him. Mr. Carter, these are serious allegations. If we find that you've fabricated or exaggerated claims of harassment to cover up a workplace relationship or to retaliate against colleagues for personal reasons, there will be consequences. Do you understand? I understand. And I'm telling you the truth. We'll be interviewing other employees who attended the gala. If their accounts contradict yours, they won't, Ryan interrupted, because I'm not lying. The interview lasted another 40 minutes. They went through everything again, asked the same questions different ways, poked holes in his timeline, questioned his memory of specific conversations. By the time Margaret finally closed her laptop, Ryan felt wrung out. We'll be in touch, she said. In the meantime, continue your normal work duties. Don't discuss this investigation with other employees, including Ms. Bennett. Understood? Understood. Ryan stood on shaky legs and walked out. The hallway felt too bright, too loud. He made it back to his desk and collapsed into his chair. An email was waiting from Sharon. You're required to avoid all non-essential contact with Marcus Webb, Jessica Ortiz, and Tom Henderson during the investigation. This includes email, instant messaging, and in-person conversations unless directly related to your job duties. So they were being kept apart. That was something, at least. Ryan opened his project files and tried to work. Failed miserably. His mind kept replaying the interview, Margaret's skeptical expression, the implication that he was lying. At 11, his phone buzzed. A text from David in IT. Dude. Lily just got pulled into the conference room. Looked rough. Ryan wanted to text her, to ask if she was okay, to coordinate their stories like everyone seemed to think they were already doing. But that would just prove them right. He forced himself to focus on work. Answered emails, reviewed a contract, joined a conference call about Q1 projections, and contributed nothing because he couldn't concentrate. Lunch came and went. Ryan ate a protein bar at his desk, alone. At 2 p.m., David appeared at his cubicle. You okay, man? Not really. This whole thing is insane. People won't shut up about it. What are they saying? David hesitated. You sure you want to know? Yeah. Most people think you and Lily are hooking up. Some think you're crazy and making it all up. A few, very few, think Marcus and those guys are assholes and had it coming. David lowered his voice. For what it's worth, I believe you. I've seen how they treat you. It was the first time anyone besides Lily had said that. Ryan's throat tightened. Thanks, he managed. You need anything, let me know. I can't do much, but I can at least be someone who doesn't think you're full of shit. After David left, Ryan checked his email again. Nothing from Lily, nothing from Margaret or Sharon or the lawyers. Just silence. The rest of the week crawled by in the same pattern. Interviews with the compliance team. They called him back twice more, asking the same questions, pushing for inconsistencies. Whispers in the hallway, emails from people he'd worked with for years suddenly asking to reschedule meetings or reassign projects, distancing themselves. On Thursday, Ryan was called back to the conference room. This time, only Margaret was there. Mr. Carter, we've completed our initial interviews. I want to share what we've found so far and give you a chance to respond. Ryan's heart sank. This didn't sound good. Marcus Webb, Jessica Ortiz, and Tom Henderson all deny your allegations. They claim that any comments made about your parenting were friendly banter, which you participated in and seemed to enjoy. That's not true. They've provided witness statements from other employees who say the same thing, that you laughed at the jokes, that you made self-deprecating comments about being a single dad, that you never objected or asked them to stop. Because objecting would have made it worse. I was trying to survive. Several employees also stated that you frequently brought up your daughter in conversation, sometimes unnecessarily, and that the comments from Marcus, Jessica, and Tom were responses to things you yourself initiated. Ryan felt like he'd been punched. I talked about Emma because she's my life. That doesn't give them permission to mock me. Regarding the gala, we have conflicting accounts. Marcus, Jessica, and Tom admit to the conversation on the terrace, but they characterize it as Ms. Bennett becoming aggressive and irrational without provocation. They say you did nothing wrong, and that Ms. Bennett attacked them on your behalf despite you clearly being uncomfortable with her intervention. That's a lie, is it? Because we have 3 consistent statements from the accused parties and multiple witnesses who say Ms. Bennett was confrontational and unprofessional. She was defending me, or she was looking for a fight. Margaret leaned back. Mr. Carter, here's what concerns me. You've worked here for 3 years, never filed a complaint, never went to HR, never documented any of these alleged incidents. Then Ms. Bennett arrives, and within 6 weeks, you're both filing formal harassment claims. It's unusual. It's unusual because I finally had someone who believed me, or because you found someone willing to validate a narrative you'd constructed. Ryan's hands were shaking. I'm not making this up. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying that without documentation, without prior complaints, without witnesses who support your version of events, this becomes a he said, she said situation. And in those situations, the company typically sides with the employees who have longer tenure and more credibility. So you're saying I'm going to lose. I'm saying the evidence is not in your favor. Margaret's expression softened slightly. Mr. Carter, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen real harassment, and I've seen people who genuinely believe they're being harassed when they're actually just sensitive to normal workplace dynamics. I'm not sure which category you fall into yet. Normal workplace dynamics don't involve 3 years of mockery, or 3 years of friendly teasing that you're now reinterpreting through a lens of victimhood. Ryan stood abruptly. Are we done? For now. But Mr. Carter, think very carefully about whether you want to proceed with this. If the investigation concludes that your allegations are unfounded, it could impact your future at this company. Is that a threat? It's a reality. Ryan walked out without responding. Made it to the bathroom, locked himself in a stall, and let himself fall apart for exactly 2 minutes. Then he pulled himself together, washed his face, and went back to his desk. An email was waiting from Lily. How did your interview go? He shouldn't respond. They weren't supposed to be communicating about the investigation, but he typed back anyway. Not great. You? Terrible. Can we talk? Not here. Not email. Somewhere safe. Ryan thought about Margaret's warning, about the narrative being built against them. Then he thought about spending the next however many years at this company alone, with no one believing him, no one on his side. Tomorrow night, after I put Emma to bed, I'll send you my address. Thank you. Friday was worse than Thursday. Ryan was called back for a fourth interview, this time with Sharon present. Mr. Carter, Margaret began, we've received some additional information that requires clarification. Were you aware that Marcus Webb was being considered for a promotion to senior director before these allegations were filed? No. And were you aware that you were also under consideration for the same position? Ryan blinked. What? No. Nobody told me that. According to HR records, you were on the short list. The decision was scheduled to be announced next month. I didn't know. So you're saying it's purely coincidental that you filed harassment allegations against your direct competition for a promotion? The room tilted. That's not... I didn't even know about the promotion. Mr. Webb claims you did. He says you were upset when you found out you were being considered but weren't the top candidate. He says you made comments about him being unfair competition because he didn't have family responsibilities holding him back. I never said that. I didn't know about any of this. Margaret glanced at Sharon. Can you confirm Mr. Carter's claim that he wasn't informed about the promotion consideration? Sharon shifted uncomfortably. The shortlist was confidential, but it's possible word got around. Did word get around to Mr. Carter? I don't know. Mr. Carter, did anyone mention this promotion to you? A colleague, a manager, anyone? Ryan thought back through the last few months, tried to remember conversations, hints, anything that might have indicated he was being considered. Nothing. No, he said. Nobody told me. You're certain? Yes. Margaret made a note. Here's the problem, Mr. Carter. Mr. Webb has provided emails suggesting he believed you knew about the promotion, and now it looks like you may have filed harassment claims to eliminate your competition. That's insane. I filed the complaint because I was being harassed, or because you saw an opportunity to remove an obstacle to your career advancement. No, that's not what this is. Then explain why, after 3 years of alleged harassment, you suddenly filed a formal complaint just weeks before a major promotion decision. Because Lily gave me the courage to finally speak up. Or because Ms. Bennett, who is new and ambitious and may have her own reasons for wanting to ingratiate herself with you, encouraged you to file false claims. Ryan's head was spinning. This is ridiculous. You're twisting everything. I'm exploring all possibilities. That's my job. The interview went on for another hour. By the time Ryan left, he felt completely unmoored. They'd turned his complaint into a conspiracy theory that he and Lily were working together to take down Marcus so Ryan could get promoted. It was so absurd he almost laughed, except nobody was laughing. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Ryan texted Lily his address. She arrived at 8:30, looking as exhausted as he felt. Thanks for coming, Ryan said, letting her in. Sorry about the mess. The apartment was small, lived in, scattered with Emma's toys and art projects. It's fine. Lily sat on the couch. We need to talk about what's happening. I know, they're trying to make us look like we're conspiring. It's worse than that. They're building a case that we filed false allegations for personal gain. Lily pulled out her phone, showed him an email. Look at this. It was from Margaret Chen, outlining concerns about Lily's motives, including the suggestion that Lily had befriended Ryan to gain favor with someone she thought had influence in the company, and that when that didn't work, they'd both decided to take down his competition. This is insane, Ryan said. I know, but it's working. Half the office believes it. So what do we do? Lily was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about that, and I think we need to drop it. What? Withdraw the complaints. Walk away. This is destroying both of us, Ryan. My manager pulled me aside today and suggested I start looking for opportunities elsewhere. They're going to push me out whether the investigation finds anything or not. They can't do that. They can, and they will, and they'll do the same to you. Lily's eyes were red, like she'd been crying recently. I thought standing up would make a difference, but all it's done is make things worse. We can't give up now. Why not? What are we fighting for? A company that doesn't care? A workplace that's already turned against us? Ryan, I'm 26 years old. I can find another job. But you have Emma. You have health insurance. You can't afford to lose this. I can't afford to stay either. Not like this. Then what do you want to do? Ryan didn't have an answer. He sat down on the couch beside her, dropped his head into his hands. I don't know, he admitted. I just know I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. I'm tired of teaching my daughter that the right thing to do is keep your head down and take it. Lily was quiet. Then she said, "What if there was another way?" "What do you mean?" "What if we went above Sharon? Above the compliance team? Straight to the top? The CEO barely knows this company exists anymore. His son runs everything. Not the CEO." Lily met his eyes. "The board of directors, the investors, the people who actually care about the company's reputation." Ryan stared at her. "You want to go public with this?" "Not public, but corporate governance has oversight requirements. If we file a formal whistleblower complaint with the board, they're obligated to investigate independently. That would be career suicide, as opposed to what we're doing now." Lily gestured around. "Ryan, we're already being pushed out. This investigation is a sham. They've already decided we're the problem. Going to the board is the only move we have left." She wasn't wrong, but it was such a massive escalation. "I need to think about it," Ryan said. "Okay, but don't think too long. Margaret told me the investigation is wrapping up next week. Once they issue their findings, it's over." After Lily left, Ryan sat in the dark apartment for a long time, thinking about Emma, about the promotion he supposedly knew about but didn't, about 3 years of small humiliations that added up to something that maybe did matter or maybe didn't, depending on who was telling the story. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You should stop while you're ahead. You're making powerful people very angry." Ryan deleted it, blocked the number, but his hands were shaking. Saturday morning, Emma wanted to go to the zoo. Ryan took her, grateful for the distraction. They looked at penguins and elephants and ate overpriced hot dogs. Emma talked non-stop about which animals were her favorite and why. Ryan listened and smiled and tried to be present, but his mind kept circling back to Lily's suggestion. Going to the board meant burning every bridge. It meant making enemies of people who had the power to destroy his career. It also meant maybe, finally, being heard. That night, after Emma was in bed, Ryan pulled up the company's organizational chart, found the names of the board members, started researching. 3 of the 7 were investors who'd backed the company early on. 2 were industry veterans brought in for credibility. 1 was the CEO's brother-in-law, clearly useless. And 1 was a woman named Patricia Winters, former federal prosecutor, known for taking on corporate misconduct cases. If Ryan was going to bet on anyone caring, it was her. He drafted an email, deleted it, started over, spent 3 hours crafting 2 paragraphs explaining the situation without sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Then he saved it as a draft and went to bed. Sunday, Lily texted, "Have you decided?" Ryan stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding, "Almost. Give me until tomorrow." "Okay. But Ryan, whatever you decide, I'm with you. We started this together. We finish it together." That helped. A little. Monday morning, Ryan dropped Emma at daycare and drove to work. Sat in the parking lot for 15 minutes, staring at the draft email on his phone. If he sent it, there was no going back. If he didn't, nothing would change. Emma's voice echoed in his head. "Why do you look sad?" Because he was teaching her that survival meant silence, that powerlessness was normal, that standing up for yourself was too dangerous to be worth it. Ryan hit send before he could change his mind. The email went to Patricia Winters with a CC to the full board. Subject line, "Formal whistleblower complaint regarding workplace harassment and investigation misconduct." He sat in his car and waited for the sky to fall. It took 6 hours. At 2 p.m., Ryan was called to Sharon's office. She looked furious. "What the hell did you do?" "I filed a complaint with the board." "You went over my head, over Margaret's head, over everyone's head, directly to the board of directors." "Yes. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I exercised my right to report misconduct through proper corporate governance channels." Sharon's face was red. "You've made a lot of powerful people very angry, Ryan." "Good. Maybe they'll actually do something now." "You're suspended, effective immediately, with pay pending board review." "On what grounds?" "Insubordination, violation of investigation protocol. Take your pick." "You can't suspend me for filing a whistleblower complaint. That's retaliation. It's administrative leave while the board reviews your allegations. Pack your things. You're not allowed on company property until further notice." Ryan walked back to his desk in a daze. People stared. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked uncomfortable. He packed his laptop, his coffee mug, a picture of Emma, fit it all in a cardboard box that felt too small for 3 years of his life. David appeared as Ryan was leaving. "Dude, what happened?" "I went to the board. They suspended me." "Holy shit." "Yeah. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing." Ryan didn't know if he had or not, but it was done. He drove home, called the daycare to say he'd pick Emma up early, spent the rest of the afternoon playing with her, pretending everything was fine. That evening, after Emma was asleep, his phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Carter, this is Patricia Winters. I received your email. We need to talk." Ryan's grip tightened on his phone. "Ms. Winters, thank you for calling. I read your email twice." Her voice was crisp, professional, the kind that came from decades of courtroom practice. "And I need to know if everything you described is accurate." "Yes, every word. You understand this is serious. If you're filing a formal whistleblower complaint, there will be an independent investigation. Your allegations will be scrutinized. Your credibility will be questioned. Are you prepared for that?" Ryan thought about Margaret's skeptical face, Sharon's fury, the whispers following him through the office. "I'm already being scrutinized. At least this way, maybe someone will actually listen." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Carter. The board takes these complaints seriously, but internal politics are complicated. You've made some powerful people uncomfortable." "Good." A sound that might have been a laugh. "All right, here's what happens next. I'm initiating an emergency board review. We'll bring in an independent investigator, not the firm the company hired, someone with no ties to anyone involved. They'll interview you, Ms. Bennett, and everyone else. But Ryan, and I'm calling you Ryan because I need you to hear me clearly, this is going to get ugly before it gets better. It's already ugly. It's going to get uglier. Are you ready for that?" Ryan looked at the picture of Emma on his nightstand. 4 years old, trusting him to make the right choices. "I don't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice. The question is whether you can live with the consequences." "I can live with fighting back. I can't live with teaching my daughter that silence is survival." Patricia's tone softened slightly. "You have a daughter?" "Yeah, she's 4. "Then you understand what's at stake." A pause. "Okay, I'll move quickly. Expect a call from our investigator within 48 hours. In the meantime, don't talk to anyone at the company. Don't respond to emails. Don't engage. Understood?" "Understood." "And Ryan, watch your back. You've just declared war on people who don't like to lose." The line went dead. Ryan sat in the dark living room, phone still pressed to his ear, trying to process what he'd just done. He'd bypassed the entire company hierarchy, gone straight to the board, burned every bridge he had. His phone buzzed, a text from Lily. "Did you do it?" "Yeah, just talked to Patricia Winters. Holy shit. What did she say?" "That things are going to get ugly. They already are. I got suspended too, 20 minutes after you left." Ryan's stomach dropped. "Lily, I'm sorry." "Don't be. We knew this would happen. Are you okay?" He didn't know how to answer that, so he typed, "I will be. Me too. We're going to win this, Ryan." He wanted to believe her. The next 48 hours crawled by in a haze of anxiety and forced normalcy. Ryan took Emma to the park, made her favorite meals, read her extra bedtime stories. Tried to act like everything was fine, even though his career was imploding and his phone kept buzzing with messages from blocked numbers telling him to drop the complaint or else. He didn't tell Emma he'd been suspended, just said he was working from home for a while. She seemed happy to have him around more. Wednesday afternoon, a woman named Dr. Sarah Kendrick called. She introduced herself as an independent workplace investigator hired by the board, no connection to the company, no stake in the outcome. "I'd like to meet with you tomorrow," Dr. Kendrick said. "Are you available?" "Yes. Where?" "Neutral location. There's a legal office downtown that's offered us space. 2 p.m.? I'll be there." Ryan called Mrs. Chen and arranged for extended daycare hours. Then he texted Lily. "Investigator wants to meet tomorrow." "You?" "Friday morning. Different time so we can't coordinate stories, probably. This is really happening." "Yeah, it really is." Thursday at 2 p.m., Ryan sat across from Dr. Kendrick in a conference room that smelled like old coffee and legal documents. She was younger than he expected, maybe 40, sharp eyes, tablet in front of her instead of a laptop. Thank you for meeting with me, Ryan. Can I call you Ryan? Sure. I've reviewed the initial investigation findings from Chen Compliance, as well as your email to the board. I need to hear your side directly. Start from the beginning. So Ryan did. He walked her through 3 years of comments and jokes and small humiliations that individually seemed like nothing but together formed a pattern he couldn't escape. He told her about the gala, about Lily's intervention, about the aftermath. Dr. Kendrick listened without interrupting, took notes, asked clarifying questions that were pointed but not aggressive. "Why didn't you document any of this?" she asked. "Because I didn't think it mattered. These weren't threats. Nobody was breaking laws. It was just death by 1,000 cuts. How do you document that? You could have kept a journal, saved emails, recorded dates and times. I was trying to survive, not build a legal case. I thought if I just kept my head down and did good work, eventually they'd leave me alone. But they didn't. No, they didn't." Dr. Kendrick made another note. "Tell me about your relationship with Lily Bennett." "We're colleagues. That's it." "You met her outside work multiple times." "Twice. Once for coffee to discuss what happened at the gala. Once at my apartment to talk about the investigation." "Why your apartment?" "Because nowhere else felt safe. The office was full of people watching us. Coffee shops felt too public. I needed somewhere we could talk honestly." "And you brought your daughter to the first meeting." "Lily said it was fine. I'm a single parent. I can't just drop everything." "Do you have feelings for Ms. Bennett?" Ryan met her eyes. "She's the first person in 3 years who believed me. Yeah, I'm grateful to her, but no, we're not involved romantically. We're just two people who got fed up with being treated like garbage." Dr. Kendrick studied him. "The company's investigation concluded that you filed these allegations to eliminate competition for a promotion. What do you say to that?" "I say I didn't know about the promotion until they told me. And even if I had, filing harassment claims is a hell of a way to get ahead. Why would I risk my entire career on something like that?" "People do irrational things when they feel desperate." "I'm not desperate. I'm angry. There's a difference." The interview lasted 3 hours. Dr. Kendrick went through everything, every incident, every witness, every email and conversation. She poked holes in Ryan's timeline, questioned his interpretations, pushed back on his characterizations. But she also listened, really listened, in a way Margaret Chen never had. "One last question," Dr. Kendrick said as they wrapped up. "What do you want to happen here? What's your ideal outcome?" Ryan thought about that. "I want them held accountable. I want the company to admit they created a toxic environment and allowed it to continue. And I want it to change so the next single parent who works there doesn't have to go through what I did." "You don't want financial compensation?" "I want my job back. I want my reputation back. But mostly I just want it to mean something, all of this. I want it to matter." Dr. Kendrick closed her tablet. "Thank you for your time, Ryan. I'll be in touch." Ryan left the building feeling drained. He picked up Emma from daycare, took her out for pizza, and tried to forget for a few hours that his entire life was hanging in the balance. That night, Lily called. "How did it go?" "Hard to tell. She asked good questions. Didn't seem like she'd already made up her mind, which is more than I can say for the first investigator." "Same here. I meet with her tomorrow." Lily's voice dropped. "Ryan, I need to tell you something. I got a call today. From Marcus." Ryan's blood went cold. "What did he want?" "To offer me a deal. He said if I withdraw my complaint and admit I overreacted, they'll quietly transfer me to a different department. Fresh start, no black mark on my record." "And if you don't?" He didn't say it outright, but the implication was clear. "They'll make sure I never work in this industry again." "That's extortion." "Yeah, it is." Lily was quiet for a moment. "He also suggested that you put me up to this, that you manipulated me because you knew I was young and naive and would believe whatever you told me." Ryan's jaw clenched. "What did you say?" "I told him to go to hell." Despite everything, Ryan smiled. "Good. But Ryan, they're going to keep doing this to both of us. They're going to try to break us down, turn us against each other, make us so miserable that we give up." "I know. Can you handle that? Can you?" "I asked first." Ryan looked at Emma sleeping on the couch, mouth open, hair a mess. "Yeah, I can handle it." "Okay, then so can I." The investigation moved faster than Ryan expected. Dr. Kendrick interviewed dozens of people over the next 2 weeks, coworkers, managers, people who'd attended the gala, even Mrs. Chen from the daycare, who confirmed Ryan's story about constantly scrambling to balance work and parenting. During those 2 weeks, Ryan's suspension continued. He stayed home with Emma, burned through his savings paying for extended daycare when he needed to attend meetings or take calls related to the investigation. The company deposited his paychecks, but he knew that could stop at any moment. Messages kept coming from blocked numbers. Some were threats, vague warnings about what happens to people who don't know when to quit. Others were offers: drop the complaint, take a severance package, go quietly. Ryan ignored all of them. Lily reported similar messages. They checked in with each other daily, careful not to discuss details of their interviews but needing the connection, the reminder that they weren't alone in this. On the 15th day, Patricia Winters called. "Ryan, we have findings. The board is convening an emergency meeting tomorrow to review Dr. Kendrick's report and decide on next steps." What did she find? "I can't discuss details until the board has reviewed everything, but I wanted to give you a heads up. This is going to move quickly once we make a decision. Be ready." Ready for what? Change. One way or another. The line went dead. Ryan barely slept that night, kept checking his phone, waiting for news. Nothing came. The next day dragged on forever. Ryan took Emma to a children's museum, pushed her on swings, made lunch, played pretend games involving princesses and dragons, all while his phone sat heavy in his pocket, silent. At 4 p.m., it finally rang. Patricia Winters. "Ryan, the board has reviewed Dr. Kendrick's findings. We're calling an emergency all-staff meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Both you and Ms. Bennett are required to attend." "What did they find?" "You'll hear everything tomorrow, but Ryan—" She paused. "You were right. About all of it." Ryan's knees went weak. He sat down hard on the edge of Emma's bed. "What happens now?" "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't be late." Ryan called Lily immediately. "Did Patricia call you?" "Yeah, emergency meeting tomorrow. She wouldn't tell me anything else." "She told me we were right." Lily sucked in a breath. "We were right. Oh my God, Ryan, we were right." "What do you think happens tomorrow?" "I don't know, but whatever it is, we face it together." That night, Ryan hired a babysitter, something he almost never did because of the cost, and arranged for Emma to stay with Sophie's family for the morning. He couldn't bring his daughter to whatever was about to happen. He barely slept, kept running through scenarios in his head. Best case, Marcus and the others got fired and Ryan got his job back. Worst case, the board sided with the company after all, and Ryan lost everything. He arrived at the office at 8:45. Hadn't been inside the building in over 2 weeks. It felt strange, foreign, like a place he'd worked in a past life. Lily was waiting in the lobby. She looked how Ryan felt, exhausted, anxious, but determined. "Ready?" she asked. "No, you?" Not even a little. They walked to the large conference room together. It was packed, every chair filled, people standing along the walls. Ryan recognized most of them, coworkers he'd worked beside for 3 years, people who'd whispered about him, people who'd looked away. Marcus, Jessica, and Tom sat in the front row. They didn't look at Ryan or Lily. Sharon sat off to the side, face unreadable. At exactly 9 a.m., Patricia Winters walked in, followed by 3 other board members and Dr. Kendrick. The room went silent. Patricia stood at the front, commanding attention without saying a word. "Thank you all for coming on short notice. We're here to address serious allegations of workplace harassment and misconduct that were brought to the board's attention by Ryan Carter and Lily Bennett." Murmurs rippled through the room. Over the past 2 weeks, Dr. Sarah Kendrick conducted an independent investigation into these allegations. She interviewed over 40 employees, reviewed 3 years of emails and documentation, and examined the company's internal investigation process. "Dr. Kendrick, would you like to present your findings?" Dr. Kendrick stood. "Thank you. I'll be direct. The allegations made by Mr. Carter and Miss Bennett are substantiated. I found clear evidence of a pattern of harassment targeting Mr. Carter over a 3-year period, primarily perpetrated by Marcus Webb, Jessica Ortiz, and Tom Henderson, but enabled by a broader culture that tolerated and even encouraged this behavior." The room exploded, people talking over each other, some shocked, some defensive. Patricia raised a hand and silence fell again. Dr. Kendrick continued. Furthermore, I found that the initial investigation conducted by Chen Compliance was fundamentally flawed. The investigator demonstrated clear bias, failed to interview key witnesses, and drew conclusions unsupported by evidence. The suggestion that Mr. Carter and Ms. Bennett fabricated allegations for personal gain is contradicted by witness testimony and documentary evidence. Ryan couldn't breathe. Lily grabbed his hand under the table, squeezed hard. Additionally, Dr. Kendrick said, I found evidence that Mr. Carter was not informed about his promotion candidacy, contradicting claims made during the initial investigation. The promotion subplot appears to have been introduced specifically to discredit Mr. Carter's complaints. Marcus was pale. Jessica stared at her lap. Tom's face had gone red. Patricia took over. Based on these findings, the board has made the following decisions. Effective immediately, Marcus Webb, Jessica Ortiz, and Tom Henderson are terminated for cause. Sharon Chen is being removed as head of HR pending further review of her role in mishandling this situation. The company will be implementing mandatory harassment prevention training for all employees and management, and we're overhauling our complaint procedures to prevent this from happening again. Gasps, murmurs. Someone in the back started clapping but stopped when no one joined in. Mr. Carter and Miss Bennett, your suspensions are lifted immediately. You're both reinstated with full back pay and an apology from this board for what you endured. Patricia's eyes found Ryan's across the room. And Mr. Carter, regarding that promotion, the position is yours if you want it. You've more than earned it. Ryan couldn't process it. It was too much, too fast. He'd won. They'd actually won. Beside him, Lily was crying quietly. This meeting is adjourned, Patricia said. Mr. Webb, Miss Ortiz, Mr. Henderson, please report to HR to collect your belongings. Everyone else, back to work. And let this serve as a reminder that harassment in any form will not be tolerated at this company going forward. People filed out slowly, shell-shocked. Some looked angry. Others looked relieved. A few, like David from IIT, caught Ryan's eye and nodded with what looked like respect. Marcus stood, jaw tight, and walked past Ryan without a word. Jessica followed, eyes red. Tom was the last to leave, and as he passed, he leaned close. This isn't over, he muttered. Yeah, Ryan said quietly. It is. After most people had cleared out, Patricia approached. Ryan? Lily. Can we talk privately? They followed her to a smaller conference room. Dr. Kendrick joined them. I want to personally apologize, Patricia said once they were seated. What happened to you both should never have occurred. The board takes full responsibility for allowing a culture to develop where harassment was tolerated. Thank you, Ryan managed. I also want to explain what happens next. There will be a settlement offer, financial compensation for what you endured. You're under no obligation to accept it, but the company wants to make this right. I don't want money, Ryan said. I just wanted them held accountable. And they have been, but you're entitled to compensation regardless. Patricia slid 2 folders across the table. These outline the terms. Take your time reviewing them. And Ryan, that promotion. I meant what I said. You've proven yourself in ways that matter far more than quarterly numbers. After Patricia and Dr. Kendrick left, Ryan and Lily sat in silence for a long moment. We did it, Lily finally said. We actually did it. Yeah, we did. I can't believe they're gone. All 3 of them. Just gone. Feels surreal. Lily looked at him. What are you going to do? About the promotion? Ryan hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. Maybe take it. Maybe not. Right now I just want to pick up my daughter and tell her everything's going to be okay. Is it going to be okay? Ryan thought about that. The company was changing. The people who'd made his life hell were gone. He had his job back, his reputation back, proof that speaking up had mattered. But he also knew how workplaces worked. Some people would always see him as the guy who caused trouble, as the whistleblower, the one who went to the board. I think so, he said finally. Maybe not perfect, but better. Lily smiled. Better's good enough for me. They walked out of the conference room together. The office felt different now, lighter somehow. Or maybe that was just Ryan's relief lifting a weight he'd been carrying for 3 years. David caught up to them in the hallway. Dude, that was intense. Yeah. For what it's worth, I'm glad you did it. A lot of people here are, even if they won't say it out loud. Marcus and those guys were assholes to more people than just you. Thanks, David. You coming back Monday? Ryan glanced at Lily. Yeah, I think so. Good. Place isn't the same without you. Even when you were suspended, it felt wrong. After David left, Lily turned to Ryan. You want to get coffee? Celebrate? I should get Emma, but yeah, coffee sounds good. Both of you can meet me at that place again? The one in your neighborhood? Yeah. I'll be there. Ryan drove to pick up Emma, mind still spinning. When he walked into Sophie's house, Emma ran to him, backpack bouncing. Daddy, did you have a good meeting? Yeah, sweetheart. I had a very good meeting. Can we get ice cream? After coffee. We're meeting my friend Lily. The pretty lady from before? Ryan smiled. Yeah, the pretty lady from before. They met Lily at the coffee shop an hour later. Emma immediately showed Lily a drawing she'd made of a dinosaur eating a pizza. That's amazing, Lily said seriously. What kind of dinosaur is it? A nice one, not a mean one. The best kind. They sat and talked while Emma colored. Not about work, not about the investigation. Just normal things. Movies they'd seen, books they'd read, places they wanted to travel. It felt easy, natural, like they'd been friends for years instead of people who'd been thrown together by circumstance. When they left, Lily hugged Ryan goodbye. Thank you, she said quietly, for not giving up. Thank you for believing me. See you Monday? See you Monday. That weekend, Ryan finally let himself breathe. Took Emma to the park, made pancakes Sunday morning, read her too many bedtime stories, and didn't care. Sunday night, he opened the settlement folder Patricia had given him. The offer was more than fair. 6 months' salary as compensation, plus coverage of any therapy or counseling costs, plus a formal written apology from the company. He signed it. Not because he needed the money, though it would help, but because it was acknowledgement. Official, documented proof that what happened to him mattered. Monday morning felt different. Ryan dropped Emma at daycare and drove to the office without dread for the first time in 3 years. When he walked in, a few people nodded at him. A couple even smiled. His desk had been cleaned, organized. A new nameplate sat waiting. Ryan Carter, Senior Director of Operations. He'd accepted the promotion over the weekend. Figured he'd earned it. Lily stopped by mid-morning. How's it feel, being back? Strange. Good, but strange. Yeah, I get that. She leaned against his cubicle wall. People are going to talk, about us, about what happened. Some will always think we caused trouble. Let them talk. You sure? Ryan looked around the office, saw people working, talking, living their lives, saw the empty desks where Marcus and Jessica and Tom used to sit, saw possibility where there used to be only dread. Yeah, he said, I'm sure. The first month back was harder than Ryan expected. Winning the battle didn't erase 3 years of damage. Some coworkers still avoided him in the hallway, conversations dying when he approached. Others were overly friendly in a way that felt performative, like they were trying to prove they'd been on his side all along. They hadn't been. Ryan remembered every face that had looked away. But he also remembered the ones who'd quietly nodded support. David, who texted him screenshots when things got bad. Karen from accounting, who told Dr. Kendrick that Marcus's behavior had always bothered her, but she'd been too afraid to say anything. A handful of people who'd been brave enough to tell the truth when it mattered. Those were the ones Ryan focused on now. The promotion came with new responsibilities. Managing a team of 12, overseeing operations across 3 departments, attending executive meetings where he was suddenly the youngest person in the room. It was overwhelming at first. Ryan had spent 3 years keeping his head down, and now people expected him to lead. You look terrified, Lily said one afternoon, catching him staring at a spreadsheet like it might explode. I have no idea what I'm doing. Yes, you do. You've been doing operations work for 3 years. You're just doing it with a better title now. It's different when people are watching. People were always watching, Lily pointed out. Now they're just watching for different reasons. She was right. The scrutiny hadn't disappeared. It had just shifted. Now, instead of waiting for Ryan to fail as a parent or an employee, people were waiting to see if he deserved the promotion, if he could actually lead, if the board had made a mistake trusting him. Ryan decided to prove them wrong. He started small, implemented flexible work policies that let parents leave early for school pickups without guilt, pushed back on unrealistic deadlines that forced people to choose between work and life, called out passive-aggressive behavior in meetings, the kind of subtle undermining that he'd endured for years. Some people loved it. Others complained that he was too soft, too accommodating, that he was letting his personal experiences cloud his judgment. Ryan didn't care. He'd learned the hard way what happened when companies prioritize performance over people. He wasn't going to repeat those mistakes. Lily thrived in the new environment. The company had promoted her too, a peace offering maybe, or acknowledgement that she'd been right to speak up. She was leading a campaign redesign that was already generating buzz. Confident, creative, the version of herself that the old toxic culture would have crushed within a year. They had lunch together most days, not because they were hiding a relationship, though the rumors persisted for months, but because they'd been through something that bonded them in a way regular friendships didn't. They understood each other's bad days, the moments when the weight of what they'd endured came crashing back. "You ever regret it?" Lily asked one day, picking at her salad. "Going to the board, blowing everything up?" Ryan thought about that. "No. But I think about what could have happened if we'd lost. If Patricia hadn't believed us. If Dr. Kendrick's investigation had gone the other way. We'd be unemployed, blacklisted, worse off than we started." "Yeah. But we didn't lose," Lily said. "We won, and the company's actually changing because of it. That matters." It did matter. Ryan saw it in small ways. The new harassment training that wasn't just a checkbox exercise. The anonymous reporting system that people actually used. The company-wide memo from the CEO acknowledging that the culture needed work. Change was slow, messy, imperfect, but it was happening. Emma noticed the difference too, in her own way. "Daddy's not sad anymore," she told Mrs. Chen one afternoon at pickup. "No?" Mrs. Chen smiled at Ryan. "Why do you think that is?" "Because the mean people went away." Ryan's throat tightened. He'd tried so hard to keep his work stress separate from Emma, but kids saw everything. Of course she'd noticed. "Yeah, sweetheart," he said, taking her hand. "The mean people went away." That evening, after Emma was in bed, Ryan sat at his kitchen table and did something he hadn't done in years. He opened his laptop and started writing. Not work emails, not reports, just thoughts about what the last few months had taught him. He wrote about fear, how it had controlled him for 3 years, keeping him silent, making him smaller. About courage, which he'd discovered wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. About the cost of speaking up, which was real and steep, but also about the cost of staying silent, which was steeper. He wrote about Lily, who'd risked everything to defend someone she barely knew. About Emma, who deserved to see her father stand up for himself. About the people who'd looked away and the few who hadn't. When he finished, he read it over twice. It wasn't polished, wasn't particularly profound, but it was honest in a way Ryan hadn't been honest in a long time. He saved the document and closed his laptop. Maybe someday he'd do something with it. Or maybe it was just for him, proof that he'd survived and learned something in the process. 3 months after the board meeting, Patricia Winters invited Ryan to lunch. They met at a restaurant downtown, the kind of place with cloth napkins and wine lists that made Ryan nervous. "Relax," Patricia said when they sat down. "This isn't an ambush. I just wanted to check in." "I'm doing okay. Are you?" "Really?" Ryan considered lying, giving the expected answer, but Patricia had believed him when no one else did. She deserved the truth. "Most days, yeah, but sometimes I walk into the office and remember what it felt like before. The dread, the constant anxiety, and I wonder if it's really different or if I'm just waiting for it to go bad again." Patricia nodded. "That's trauma. It doesn't disappear just because the circumstances changed. You should talk to someone, therapist, counselor, someone who can help you process what you went through." "I'm a single dad with a 4-year-old. I don't exactly have time for therapy." "Make time. Because Ryan, you won this battle, but you're still carrying the wounds. If you don't deal with them, they'll catch up to you." She wasn't wrong. Ryan had been having nightmares. Marcus's voice in his ear, Jessica's fake sweetness, Tom's casual cruelty. He'd wake up sweating, heart racing, and have to remind himself it was over. They were gone. He'd won, but the fear remained. "I'll think about it," Ryan said. "Do more than think. The company will cover the costs. It's the least they can do." They talked about other things. Emma, the new policies Ryan was implementing, Lily's campaign success. Patricia told him about her own experiences as a federal prosecutor, the cases that had kept her up at night, the ones that still did. Fighting for what's right doesn't get easier, she said as they paid the bill. But it gets more necessary. What you did, going to the board, refusing to back down, that took real courage. Don't lose that. Ryan thought about Patricia's words that night, about courage and trauma and the difference between winning and healing. The next day, he called a therapist. Her name was Dr. Lisa Martinez, and she specialized in workplace trauma. Their first session was awkward. Ryan wasn't used to talking about his feelings with strangers, but by the third week, something started to shift. "You keep saying you were weak for not reporting it sooner," Dr. Martinez said during one session. "Why do you think that?" "Because I should have stood up for myself. Instead, I just took it for 3 years." "You were surviving. There's nothing weak about that." "It feels weak. Because you've internalized the message that enduring mistreatment means you deserve it. But Ryan, you were in an impossible situation. Single parent, sole provider, no support system. You made the rational choice to prioritize stability for your daughter. That's not weakness. That's love." Ryan hadn't thought about it that way. He'd been so focused on what he should have done differently that he'd never considered what he'd done right, kept Emma safe, kept them both fed and housed, survived until the moment came when he could finally fight back. "So what do I do now?" Ryan asked. "You keep healing. You keep building the life you want instead of the one you had to settle for, and you forgive yourself for being human." Forgiving himself turned out to be the hardest part. 6 months after the board meeting, the company held a town hall to discuss the cultural changes that had been implemented. Ryan attended, sitting in the back, watching as the new head of HR, a woman named Michelle Torres, who actually seemed to care, outlined the new policies. Anonymous reporting, mandatory bystander intervention training, clear consequences for harassment, regular cultural audits, all things that should have existed before but hadn't. "We're also launching a mentorship program," Michelle announced, pairing senior employees with newer hires to create support networks and prevent isolation. Ryan Carter has agreed to help design and lead this program. People turned to look at Ryan. He managed a small wave, feeling his face heat. After the meeting, several employees approached him. Some thanked him for what he'd done. Others asked questions about the mentorship program. A few just wanted to shake his hand. One woman, maybe in her 30s, waited until everyone else had left. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly. "I'm a single mom, 2 kids, and before all this happened, I was thinking about quitting because I couldn't handle the comments anymore. But now it's different, better, because you spoke up." Ryan didn't know what to say. "I'm glad it helped." "It did more than help. It probably saved my job." She smiled. "So thank you." After she left, Ryan stood alone in the conference room processing. He'd fought for himself, for Lily, for the principle of it. But he hadn't really thought about the ripple effects, all the other people who'd benefit from the changes. Maybe that's what courage actually meant. Not just standing up for yourself, but standing up in a way that made it easier for others to stand too. Emma turned 5 in July. Ryan threw her a birthday party at their apartment. Small, just a few kids from daycare and their parents. Lily came too, bringing a stuffed dragon that Emma immediately named Gerald. "Gerald's a good name for a dragon," Lily said seriously. "He's a nice dragon," Emma explained. "Not a mean one." Ryan watched them interact. Lily, patient and genuine. Emma chattering away without self-consciousness. For the first time in years, his work life and home life overlapped without anxiety. Lily wasn't a coworker he had to keep separate. She was a friend, someone who'd fought beside him and earned the right to be part of both worlds. After the kids had destroyed the cake and left with their goodie bags, Lily helped Ryan clean up. "She's great," Lily said, collecting paper plates. "Emma, you're doing a good job with her." "Thanks. I'm trying." "You're doing more than trying." Lily paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever think about dating? Like, actually dating, not whatever rumors people spread about us?" Ryan laughed. "Sometimes, but it's complicated. Most people don't want to sign up for a guy with a kid and a lot of baggage. The right person won't care about the baggage." "You sound like my therapist." "You're seeing a therapist?" Lily looked genuinely pleased. "Ryan, that's great." "Yeah, well, Patricia suggested it. Turns out surviving workplace trauma leaves some marks." No kidding. Lily was quiet for a moment. I've been seeing someone too. Dr. Patel. She's helped me process a lot of what happened. The guilt, mostly. Guilt about what? About whether I did the right thing, whether speaking up was worth the cost, whether I made your life harder by getting involved. Lily, you made my life better. You gave me the courage to finally fight back. I know that now, but for a while I felt like maybe I'd been selfish, like I'd projected my own need to be the hero onto your situation. Ryan set down the trash bag he was holding. Is that what your therapist said? She said I need to separate my intentions from the outcome, that I can acknowledge my motivations were complex without invalidating the good that came from my actions. That sounds very therapeutic. Lily laughed. It is. But it's also true. I didn't defend you just because it was the right thing. I defended you because watching them tear you down made me angry, because I saw my own experiences with bullies reflected in yours, because standing up to them felt like standing up to everyone who'd ever made me feel small. So we both had complicated reasons for doing what we did, Ryan said. That doesn't make it less valid. No, I guess it doesn't. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence. When Lily left, Emma asked, Is Miss Lily your girlfriend? No, sweetheart. She's my friend. But you smile when you talk to her. Ryan couldn't argue with that. She's a good friend, the kind who's there when things are hard. Like Mr. Rabbit? Emma held up her stuffed animal. Yeah, like Mr. Rabbit. Satisfied, Emma went back to playing with Gerald the dragon. But her question stuck with Ryan. He did smile when he talked to Lily, looked forward to their lunches, felt lighter after their conversations. Was that friendship or something more? He didn't know. And for now, he was okay with not knowing. Some things didn't need to be defined or rushed. They could just be. A year after the board meeting, the company held its annual gala again. Ryan almost didn't go. The memories from last year's event were still sharp, still painful, but Lily convinced him. We don't let them take this from us, she said. We go. We show up. We prove we're still here. So Ryan bought a new suit, one that actually fit this time, and drove to the Meridian Grand. The ballroom looked the same. Ice sculptures, fancy food, live band, but everything else was different. He wasn't sitting at table 12 in the back. He was at table 3, near the front, with other senior directors and their guests. The nameplate next to his read Lily Bennett, not because anyone assumed they were together, but because she'd asked to sit with him and he'd said yes. Marcus, Jessica, and Tom were gone. Their replacements seemed decent so far. Professional, respectful, still being watched by everyone to see if they'd repeat the same patterns. You okay? Lily asked as they sat down. Yeah, weird being back here, but okay. Last year at this time, we were on that terrace. You were running to pick up Emma. I was telling off half the senior staff. Lots changed since then. Everything's changed since then. The dinner was fine. The speeches were boring. Ryan accepted an award for outstanding leadership and cultural impact that felt both earned and awkward. When he went up to receive it, people clapped, some enthusiastically, some politely, some not at all. He gave a short speech, thanked Patricia and the board for believing him, thanked Dr. Kendrick for doing her job with integrity, thanked Lily for having the courage he'd lacked. This award isn't just mine, Ryan said, holding the plaque. It belongs to everyone who's ever been made to feel like speaking up isn't worth the risk, to everyone who's survived a toxic workplace and wondered if they were the problem. You're not, and it does get better. Not perfect, but better. The applause was louder that time. After the ceremony, people approached him, some to congratulate, some to share their own stories of harassment they'd endured at this company or others, some just to say they respected what he'd done. Patricia cornered him near the dessert table. Hell of a speech. Thanks, I meant it. I know you did. That's why it worked. She paused. I wanted to tell you something. The board is considering making you VP of Operations when Henderson retires next year. Ryan nearly dropped his plate. What? You've proven yourself. The cultural changes you've implemented are working. Employee satisfaction is up. Retention is improving. You've earned this. Patricia, I've been in this role for less than a year. And you've done more in that year than Henderson did in 10. Think about it. No pressure, but the offer will be there when you're ready. She walked away, leaving Ryan stunned. VP of Operations. A year ago, he'd been struggling to survive. Now he was being offered a position 3 levels above where he'd started. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Lily said, appearing at his elbow. "Patricia just told me I'm being considered for VP. Ryan, that's amazing. It's terrifying." "It's both," Lily smiled. "But you'd be great at it. You actually care about people. That's rare in executives." "I don't know if I'm ready." "Nobody's ever ready. You just do it anyway." Ryan thought about that, about all the times he'd felt unready. To be a single parent, to file a harassment complaint, to lead a team. He'd done those things anyway. Maybe this wasn't different. "I'll think about it," he said. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations and forced networking. When it finally ended, Ryan and Lily walked out together into the cold December air. "Last year we stood on that terrace," Lily said, looking back at the building. "You told me you couldn't win, that pushing back would just make things worse. I was wrong." "You weren't wrong. You were realistic. The odds were against us. We just got lucky that someone like Patricia was on the board." "It wasn't just luck," Ryan said. "We did the work, told the truth, refused to back down. Luck helped, but we earned this." Lily smiled. "Yeah, we did." They stood there for a moment, breath fogging in the winter air, before Ryan finally asked the question that had been building for months. "You want to get dinner sometime? Not work lunch. Actual dinner." Lily's smile widened. "Are you asking me on a date, Ryan Carter?" "Maybe. Is that weird, given everything?" "It's probably the least weird thing about our relationship." She took his hand. "And yes, I'd like that." Ryan drove home that night feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, not just relief. Something bigger. Something that felt like possibility. He picked up Emma from the babysitter, Mrs. Chen, who'd stayed late again but insisted she didn't mind, and carried his sleeping daughter up to their apartment. As he tucked Emma into bed, she stirred. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" "Was your party good?" "Yeah, it was really good." "Did you dance?" Ryan thought about the award, the VP offer, the moment on the steps with Lily. "Yeah, sweetheart, I danced." Emma smiled, already half asleep again. "Good." Ryan sat on the edge of her bed for a while, watching her breathe. 4 years old when this all started. 5 now. Soon she'd be 6, then 7, then grown. Time didn't stop just because you were fighting battles. But maybe that was the point. You fought the battles so that time could move forward, so that each year could be better than the last, so that your kid could grow up seeing you stand tall instead of bent. Over the next few months, Ryan settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Work was demanding, but manageable. Therapy helped him process the trauma without letting it define him. Emma thrived in kindergarten, made friends, brought home art projects that covered every surface of their apartment. And Lily became something Ryan hadn't expected. Not just a colleague, not just a friend. Something more complicated and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Their first date was awkward. Both of them overthinking, worried about crossing lines, hyper-aware of the history between them. But the second date was easier. And the third. By the fourth, it felt natural. Right. "Is this weird?" Lily asked one evening over dinner. "Dating the person you filed a harassment complaint with?" "Probably," Ryan admitted. "But most of my life is weird now. This is the good kind of weird." Emma liked Lily. That mattered more to Ryan than he'd expected. She asked when Miss Lily was coming over, wanted to show her new drawings, insisted Lily read bedtime stories in silly voices. "You're good with her," Ryan said one night after Emma had finally fallen asleep. "She's easy to be good with. She's amazing." "She is, but you didn't have to sign up for this. Single dad with baggage and a 5-year-old. That's a lot." Lily turned to face him. "Ryan, I didn't sign up for a package deal. I signed up for you. Emma's part of you, and I like all of it." "Even the messy parts?" "Especially the messy parts." 6 months into dating, Ryan accepted the VP position. It came with more responsibility, longer hours, and pressure he'd never experienced. But it also came with the power to make real change, to ensure that what happened to him didn't happen to anyone else. He restructured the entire operations department, created pathways for advancement that didn't require sacrificing family for career, implemented policies that protected parents, caregivers, anyone with responsibilities outside work. Some executives complained that he was too soft, that businesses couldn't function with so much accommodation. Ryan proved them wrong. Retention improved, productivity increased, employee satisfaction scores hit all-time highs. Turned out, people worked better when they weren't constantly anxious about being punished for having lives. A year and a half after the board meeting, Ryan got a call from Marcus. He almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "What do you want?" Ryan asked. "I wanted to apologize." Marcus's voice was different, smaller. "For everything. What I did to you was wrong. I've been in therapy, working through why I felt the need to tear other people down, and I realized I was the problem, not you." Ryan didn't know what to say. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Marcus continued. "I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About all of it. And I'm sorry." The line went quiet. "Okay," Ryan finally said. "I appreciate you saying that. Are you doing okay? I heard you made VP." "Yeah, I'm doing okay." "Good. You deserve it." Marcus paused. "I mean that." After they hung up, Ryan sat with the conversation for a while. He didn't forgive Marcus, wasn't sure he ever would, but the apology mattered. Not because it changed the past, but because it acknowledged the truth. Sometimes that was enough. 2 years after the board meeting, Ryan proposed to Lily. Nothing elaborate, just the two of them and Emma at the park where they'd had their first coffee meeting. Emma helped present the ring, a role she took very seriously. "Will you marry my daddy?" Emma asked Lily, holding out the small box. Lily was crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes, yes, I will marry your daddy," Emma cheered. Ryan kissed Lily. And for a moment, everything that had led them here, the harassment, the investigation, the fear and courage, and messy healing, felt worth it. They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, close friends and family, Emma as flower girl. Patricia Winters attended, as did Dr. Martinez and Dr. Kendrick. Even David from IT came, making a speech about how he'd always known they'd end up together. During the reception, Ryan found himself on a balcony, not unlike the terrace from that first gala, looking out at the city. Lily joined him, champagne in hand. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About how different everything is. 2 years ago, I was barely surviving. Now I'm married to you, I'm a VP, Emma's happy. It's almost too good." "You earned this, Ryan, all of it. We earned it. I couldn't have done any of this without you." "Sure you could have. Maybe not as quickly, maybe not the same way, but you would have figured it out. You're stronger than you think." Ryan shook his head. "I wasn't strong. I was scared for 3 years. Being scared doesn't mean you're not strong. It means you're human." Lily took his hand. "You want to know what I think? I think strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing what's right anyway. And that's exactly what you did." Ryan pulled her close. "So what do we do now?" "We live. We build the life we want. We show Emma what it looks like when people fight for each other and win." "That simple? That complicated?" Lily smiled. "But we'll figure it out, together." They went back inside to their wedding, to Emma spinning on the dance floor, to friends and family celebrating with them. Ryan looked around at everyone who'd helped them get here, the ones who'd believed them, the ones who'd fought beside them, the ones who'd given them a chance when it mattered. This was what winning looked like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and earned and theirs. And later that night, after the reception ended and Emma was asleep at Lily's parents' house, Ryan and Lily sat in their apartment, the same small place Ryan had lived in for years, though they'd started looking at bigger options. "You know what I realized?" Ryan said. "What's that?" "That gala, when Marcus and the others were making my life hell, I thought I was at rock bottom, that things couldn't get worse, but I was wrong. Rock bottom wasn't that night. Rock bottom was the 3 years before when I convinced myself I deserved it. And now I know I didn't deserve it. Nobody does. And if speaking up helps even one person realize that, then everything we went through was worth it." Lily kissed him. "I love you." "I love you too." They sat in comfortable silence, exhausted and happy, until Lily finally asked, "So what's next for us?" Ryan thought about the VP role, about the cultural changes still needed, about Emma starting first grade next year, about building a life with Lily. "Everything," he said. "What's next is everything." 3 years after the board meeting, Ryan gave a keynote speech at a national conference on workplace culture. He talked about his experience, the harassment, the fear, the decision to speak up, the messy aftermath. People ask me if I regret it, Ryan said to the audience of hundreds. If I regret filing that complaint, going to the board, blowing up my comfortable silence. And the answer is no. Not for a second. Because silence isn't comfortable. It's corrosive. It eats away at you until there's nothing left but fear and shame. He paused, looking out at the faces watching him. Standing up cost me sleep, stability, and peace of mind. But staying silent was costing me something more important, my self-respect. My daughter was watching me accept treatment I'd never want her to accept. And I realized I had to choose. Did I want to teach her survival or courage? Because they're not the same thing. The speech ended with a standing ovation. Afterward, dozens of people approached him with their own stories. Parents who'd been discriminated against, employees who'd endured harassment, people who'd stayed silent for years and were only now finding their voice. Ryan listened to all of them, gave his card to anyone who asked, told them what he'd learned, that speaking up was terrifying, that the system was rigged against complainants, that winning was rare but possible. The important thing, he told one young woman who was crying about her own situation, is that you speak up for yourself, not because it'll definitely work, but because you deserve to be heard, and because staying silent teaches the people hurting you that they can get away with it. What if I lose my job? She asked. You might. That's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. You might lose your job, your reputation, your sense of security, but you'll keep your integrity and you'll know you tried. It wasn't a particularly comforting answer, but it was honest. That night, Ryan came home to Lily cooking dinner and Emma doing homework at the kitchen table. Normal, domestic, the life he'd fought for. How was the conference? Lily asked. Good. Hard, but good. A lot of people shared their stories. You help them, by talking about what happened. You give people permission to fight back. I just tell the truth. That's exactly why it helps. They ate dinner as a family, Ryan, Lily, and Emma, who was now 7 and full of opinions about everything. After Emma went to bed, Ryan pulled out his laptop and opened the document he'd been working on for months. It was a book. His story, Lily's story, the story of what happened when 2 people decided enough was enough. He didn't know if anyone would publish it, didn't know if it mattered, but he wrote it anyway, because staying silent had nearly destroyed him, and he'd promised himself he'd never be silent again. 4 years after the board meeting, Ryan was approached about joining the board of directors himself. The company had expanded, needed fresh perspectives, wanted someone who understood what employees actually dealt with. You're kidding, Ryan said when Patricia called with the offer. I'm not. You've earned it, Ryan, and we need voices like yours at the decision-making level. I'm not qualified to be on a corporate board. You're more qualified than half the people currently sitting on it. Think about it. Ryan did think about it. Talked it over with Lily, with Dr. Martinez, with the handful of mentors he'd collected over the years. In the end, he accepted. Not because he felt ready, he still didn't, but because someone needed to represent the employees who couldn't represent themselves. Someone needed to remember what it felt like to be powerless and make sure the company never forgot. His first board meeting was intimidating. Fancy conference room, expensive suits, discussions about millions of dollars and strategic initiatives that would affect thousands of lives. But when the conversation turned to cutting benefits to improve profit margins, Ryan spoke up. We can't do that. Those benefits are what keep single parents and caregivers employed. Cut them and we lose our best people. One of the older board members frowned. It's a competitive market. People will accept less. People will leave, and they'll tell others, and our reputation will suffer. Trust me, I've lived this. The room went quiet. Ryan's story was known. His presence on the board was itself a statement about the company's values. What do you suggest? The CEO asked. Find the cuts elsewhere. Executive compensation, consultant fees, anything except the support systems that keep regular employees afloat. There was pushback, debate, but in the end, the board voted to keep the benefits intact and find savings elsewhere. It was a small victory, but it mattered. 5 years after the board meeting, Ryan stood in front of a kindergarten class for career day. Emma had insisted he come, had told all her friends that her daddy was important. What do you do? One kid asked. I help make sure people are treated fairly at work, Ryan said. Like a superhero? Ryan laughed. Not exactly. More like someone who tries to fix things when they're broken. How do you fix them? By listening to people who are hurting and by standing up when something's wrong, even when it's scary. Emma beamed from her seat, proud of him in a way that made Ryan's chest ache. After the presentation, walking Emma back to class, she asked, "Daddy, were you scared when you stood up to the mean people?" Ryan crouched down to her level. "Yeah, sweetheart, I was terrified." "But you did it anyway." "Yeah, because sometimes the right thing is also the scary thing, and you do it anyway." Emma thought about that. "I want to be brave like you." "You already are." That night, after Emma was asleep, Ryan sat with Lily on their couch in the house they'd finally bought together. Bigger than the apartment, room for Emma to have her own space and for the baby that was coming in 6 months. "You ever think about how different our lives would be if you hadn't defended me that night?" Ryan asked. "All the time. We'd probably both be miserable at different companies, never having met, never knowing what we missed." "You don't regret any of it? Not even the hard parts?" "Because the hard parts led us here." Lily put her hand on her stomach, where their daughter, they'd found out last week, was growing. "Everything led us here," Ryan kissed her. "I love you." "I love you too. And Ryan, I'm proud of you, of everything you've built, everything you've become. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yeah, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." They sat together in comfortable silence, the life they'd fought for wrapping around them like a blanket. 6 years after the board meeting, Ryan published his book. It wasn't a bestseller, workplace harassment memoirs rarely were, but it found its audience. People who'd been through similar experiences, people who needed to know they weren't alone. He did interviews, spoke on panels, answered emails from strangers sharing their stories. It was exhausting but necessary. Every person who reached out represented someone who might now speak up because they'd seen that it was possible. "You're making a difference," Lily told him after a particularly long day of interviews. "I'm just telling my story." That's how you make a difference. One story at a time. Emma was 9 now, sharp and funny, and completely unafraid to speak her mind. Their second daughter, Sophie, was 2 and already showing signs of her sister's stubbornness. Ryan's life looked nothing like what he'd imagined sitting in that cubicle 6 years ago, terrified and alone, wondering if he'd ever escape. It looked better. One afternoon, Ryan got an email from the young woman he'd talked to at the conference 3 years earlier. She'd filed her own harassment complaint. It had been ugly, exactly as ugly as Ryan had warned her it would be. But she'd won. The company had settled, her harassers had been fired, and she'd been promoted. "Thank you for telling me it was possible," she wrote. "Thank you for being honest about how hard it would be. And thank you for showing me that winning doesn't mean everything gets perfect. It just means you get to keep your dignity." Ryan read the email twice, then forwarded it to Lily. "This is why you do it," Lily said when they talked that evening. "This is why it matters." "Yeah," Ryan agreed. "It is." And, Mom. 7 years after this board meeting, Ryan stood on the same terrace where everything had started. The company was holding another gala, the 7th since that night. But this one felt different. The culture had changed, really changed. Not perfectly. Workplaces were always imperfect because they were full of imperfect people, but better, measurably, significantly better. Harassment complaints were taken seriously now, investigated properly. People who abused their power faced real consequences. Parents weren't penalized for having children. The company had been recognized nationally for its workplace culture, an irony that wasn't lost on anyone who'd been around 7 years ago. Lily stood beside him, their daughter in her arms, Emma dancing inside with friends. "You thinking about that night?" Lily asked. "Yeah, about how scared I was. How sure I was that I'd lose everything if I fought back." "You did lose some things." "I lost the wrong things and gained the right ones." Lily smiled. "That's very philosophical." "I've had 7 years to think about it." They stood together, watching the city lights, the same view from a different perspective. Ryan wasn't the scared single dad anymore, trying to survive one more day. He was a board member, an author, a father of 2, a husband, someone who'd fought and won and built something worth having. But more importantly, he was someone who'd learned that speaking up mattered, that silence had a cost. The courage wasn't about being unafraid, it was about being afraid and acting anyway. Emma came running out onto the terrace. "Daddy, Come dance with me. Ryan let her pull him back inside, to the music and lights and celebration. Lily followed, carrying Sophie, and for a moment Ryan could see it all, the journey from that terrible night to this joyful one, the growth and pain and healing that had brought them here. It hadn't been smooth, hadn't been easy, hadn't been anything like the stories that promised speaking up would fix everything, but it had been worth it. And that, Ryan had learned, was all that mattered. Not that the journey was easy, but that it was worth taking. Not that victory was guaranteed, but that fighting for it was better than surrendering. Not that everything turned out perfect, but that imperfect was good enough when you'd earned it honestly. He danced with Emma, laughing as she spun him in circles. Lily joined them with Sophie. And Ryan thought about the person he'd been 7 years ago, silent, scared, surviving, but not living. That person was gone now, replaced by someone stronger, not fearless, not perfect, but someone who'd learned that the right thing and the hard thing were often the same thing, and that doing it anyway was what courage actually meant. The music played. His family danced. And Ryan Carter, once the quiet single dad everyone underestimated, finally allowed himself to believe what he'd fought so hard to prove, that he deserved this, all of it. Not because he was special, but because everyone deserved to work without fear, to speak without retribution, to live with dignity. He'd just been brave enough to fight for it, and in the end, that had made all the difference.